Well, let's do the arteries. So this is the aortic arch, and let's do the arteries that come off the aortic arch. This is the brachiocephalic artery or brachiocephalic trunk. Coming off that is this right common carotid artery right here, and this right subclavian artery right here. Right next to this right common carotid artery here is this internal jugular vein, and right next to that's the external jugular vein. And this is the subclavian vein. Over here, coming off the arch, this is the left common carotid artery. This is the left subclavian artery. Right next to the left common carotid is this internal jugular. There's the external jugular. There's the left subclavian. Now watch this. The internal jugular and left subclavian come together. They make this brachiocephalic vein. The internal jugular and right subclavian come together, and they make this right brachiocephalic vein. The two brachiocephalic veins come together to make the superior vena cava, and that goes into the right atrium. Jumping over here. After the aortic arch, you have the descending aorta, but the part of the descending aorta that's in the thoracic cavity is the thoracic aorta. And then it goes through the diaphragm, and part of the descending aorta that's in the abdominal cavity is the abdominal aorta. So thoracic aorta, abdominal aorta. This branch right here, off the abdominal aorta, is called the celiac trunk. It has three main arteries coming off of it. It has the splenic artery right here. It's going to come over to the spleen. You can't see the spleen here, but it comes over to the spleen. It has this gastric artery right here going up to the stomach. And it has this hepatic artery right here going over to the liver. The liver would be sitting right there. Below the celiac trunk and those three arteries, oh, before I miss it, this is the inferior phrenic artery right here going up to the diaphragm. And those are the inferior phrenic veins draining the diaphragm right there. Moving down from the celiac trunk, I have the superior mesenteric artery. Moving down from there, I have the inferior mesenteric artery. On both sides of the inferior mesenteric are these gonadal arteries going down to the gonads. Here's the gonadal veins returning to, this gonadal vein returns to the inferior vena cava right here all by itself. But this gonadal vein joins the renal vein and then goes into the inferior vena cava. On that, this is a renal artery going to their kidney. This is a renal vein draining the kidney. This is a renal artery going to this kidney. This is a renal vein draining that kidney. This is the inferior vena cava. When the abdominal aorta bifurcates, you get this common iliac artery, which again bifurcates, and you get this internal iliac and external iliac artery. Over here it bifurcates, you get an external and internal iliac artery. Right next to the common iliac arteries are the common iliac veins. Right next to the internal iliac artery is an internal iliac vein. Internal iliac artery, internal iliac vein. External iliac artery, external iliac vein. External iliac artery, external iliac vein. When the artery passes underneath the inguinal ligament, it becomes the femoral artery right here. And then over here, it's on here, I'll show you. This vein here, this is the femoral vein. It comes up and passes under the inguinal ligament and becomes the external iliac vein. Now, one more model. Let me orient this for myself. Okay, this is an axillary artery and this is an axillary vein. The axillary artery bifurcates and becomes the circumflex artery, which you don't need to know, but it becomes this brachial artery that you do need to know, this brachial artery right here. You can see it a little bit better over here, brachial artery. And right underneath that brachial artery is this brachial vein. Don't get confused with this one. This big one here is the basilic vein. This great big vein is the basilic vein. Matter of fact, the basilic vein and the cephalic vein join to make the axillary vein. And this is the cephalic vein right here. All right, this right here is the superior ulnar collateral. And it's going to join the ulnar vein right here. This is the superior ulnar collateral artery is going to join the ulnar artery right here. This is the ulnar artery. And this is the superior ulnar collateral, which will join it. This is the radial artery right here. And you can see the radial collateral right here joining it. So if this is the radial artery, this radial collateral is going to join it right here. Now, having said that, this is the ulnar vein. This is the radial vein, and this is the ulnar vein right there. Just as this is the radial artery, and that's the ulnar artery. The veins and arteries are right next to it. The arteries come up and make this superficial palmar arch up in here. They pull the veins back. This superficial palmar arch is here. It's called superficial because there's a deep palmar arch. So the superficial palmar arch exists, and then the digital arteries rise off of that and feed the fingers. But these are called palmar digital arteries because on the back side, you have dorsal digital arteries going up to the fingers. So you have palmar digital arteries and dorsal digital arteries. One more vein. This is, so let me do these veins again. This is the basilic. This is the cephalic, right here. This is the median cubital. And this is the vein you draw blood out of when you do venipuncture. That's what you try to draw blood out of. Sometimes they'll go and grab one of these other veins, but that's a nice vein right in the center of your antecubital space. And that's about it.
Can you show me the ulnar and the radial vein?
Yep.
Not